Good morning. I'm very excited to present how Japan is thinking about Arctic. I think this is the first time a person of my ministry talk about the Arctic outside Japan. I really appreciate organizers of AOS for offering me this precious opportunity. At first, can you imagine how Japanese people think about the Arctic? They are living in a place far from the Arctic. I'll show you the example. Question is here. Could you give your thoughts about Arctic? This is the case of a 20-year-old university student. Arctic? It must be a cold place. Very far from my country. Maybe the place has no relation to my life. Oh, I heard the ice sheet in the Arctic is melting at an alarming rate. I'm anxious about polar bear. You see, this is a very normal reaction of Japanese people. Quite different type of people from you, unfortunately. There is a reason of such reaction. Yeah, this is a map, most popular in Japan. It is drawn by a Mercator projection. My country, Japan, is luckily at the center in the map. But how do you think about this map? It's very difficult to realize the North Pole and the Arctic Circle. In addition, this quite gigantic Antarctica makes the existence of the Arctic all the more weak. If I ask Japanese to show me the Arctic area in this map, most of the people do like this. By the way, the person who kindly answered to my question is this guy. His name is Yuichi Inoue. I confess he is my son. I am very sorry. I am not a good teacher of Arctic. But the situation in Japan is rapidly changing in proportion to the speed of sea ice melting. I could say the greater part of Japanese, including my son, will have a big interest to the Arctic in a few years. There is a sign. Some politicians and government officials have already been into what is going on in the Arctic. Their interests are mainly focused on these three themes: natural resources, Arctic sea routes, and climate change. It is almost the same as the other countries, but there are some reasons peculiar to Japan. At first, Japan is very sensitive to natural resources. It's because Japan is a country poor in natural resources with small land. Japan's self-sufficiency in energy is just 4%. If we count nuclear energy as a home-produced energy, the ratio would be expected to rise to around 20%. But after the catastrophic earthquake and tsunami in 2011, all of the Japanese 50 nuclear power plants except for 2 have been stopped. The number of nuclear plants damaged by the earthquake and tsunami was 3, all located in Fukushima Prefecture. The government is now investigating the case and rethinking the safety regulations, including resuming the non-damaged nuclear power plants. At this moment, we never know when the operation of nuclear power plants start again. And 70% of Japan's energy source is oil and gas, and nearly 90% of its oil and gas is from the Middle East. Because of these backgrounds, pursuing new energy supplier, new energy sources, and technologies for new energy are always top priority themes in Japan. concerning natural resources. Natural resources existing under seabed is now a hot topic in Japan. I said Japan is a country poor in natural resources with small land. But if we look at the ocean, we can see another landscape. Japan's size of land is about 380,000 square kilometers. It's just 62nd place in the world ranking. On the other hand, our size of territorial waters and EEG is very broad, 6th place in the world. And recent progress of scientific investigation of the ocean shows a great possibility. Oil and gas, methane hydrate, polymetallic sulfides, and rare earths are expected to develop from the ocean. Here is one example of recent progress. Japan successfully extracted natural gas from frozen methane hydrate in the seabed this March. This is the first example of production of gas offshore. The place was in the Pacific Ocean, 80 kilometers off the coast of central Japan. Though the costs of extracting gas from the seabed are much higher than for other forms of production, the breakthrough could be a step toward eventual commercial production, I think. And some technology companies, such as Mitsubishi Heavy Industry and energy companies, have idea that applying this new technology for another places, including the Arctic, in the future. Next, sea routes. To tell the truth, the Arctic sea routes are not so attractive for marine transportation companies in Japan because there are few cities in which Japanese companies have their business partners along the coast by the sea routes. The other side, the southward route, has many important cities for business such as Mumbai, Singapore, Bangkok, Hanoi, Hong Kong, Hangzhou, Shanghai, and so on. So, what is the motivation of Japan seeking new routes in the Arctic Ocean? It comes mainly from the interest for natural resources. At first, we expect transportation of natural resources from the Arctic area. Actually, the first shipment of Norwegian LNG along the Northern Sea route to Japan took place in November last year. And we would like to lower risk of piracy in the Strait of Malacca and Gulf of Aden. As I said before, nearly 90% of Japan's oil and gas is from the Middle East, so this point is very important for us. And we would like to lower fuel costs for transportation between Europe and, of course, between east coast of US. And the last one, newly development of Asian hub port in Japan. It's come from a different point of view. While Japanese ports of Tokyo, Yokohama, Kobe, and Nagoya have been among the largest container ports in the world ever since the inception of containerization in the 1960s. They have been overshadowed by the emergence during the 1980s of Hong Kong and Singapore and Kaohsiung. We are thinking if the amount of distribution of marine transportation through the Arctic sea routes increase, Japan may have a chance to develop a megaport to treat the cargoes from the north. In this context, marine transportation companies and marine construction companies have interest. Next, I'm going to the topic of climate change. Last year, one scientific article attracted a great deal of public attention in Japan. It said, reduction of sea ice in Barents Sea caused severe cold winter in Japan. Most Japanese think what happens in the Arctic has no relation to Japan. The impact of this article was it connected Arctic with Japan in Japanese mind. Our attempt to boost the activity of Arctic research started 3 years ago. We got people who had expertise in Arctic research together and discussed what we should do. And after that, we set these 4 priority areas. First one is to understand the mechanism of warming amplification in the Arctic. Second one is to understand the Arctic system for global change and future change. Third one is to evaluate the impacts of Arctic change on weather and climate in Japan and marine ecosystems and fisheries. The last one is to predict sea ice distribution and to apply the outcome for navigation of Arctic sea routes. After we set these targets, we launched a new 5-year project named Arctic Climate Change Research Project in 2011. The name is something mediocre, but the content is ambitious. This is the first governmental integrated project for Arctic research in Japan. My ministry mixed its funding to the project. The budget is about $6 million per year. This project consists of 2 parts. One is granting to research projects which try to achieve the 4 targets I mentioned. The other is setting up a consortium of researchers. I think the latter is more important to Japan because our researchers' community of Arctic research field is not so strong. There are actually good researchers, but the number of researchers of this community is relatively small, and researchers are basically isolated and their activities are local. So we think that connecting individuals will make great effects. This is the basic concept of the project. Our expectations are mainly 3 points. First one is to make total research power stronger, or like this. This is just an image, but and the second one is take new researchers into this field, like this. And third one is to pull up its research from local to international. The name of this consortium is JICA. It stands for Japan Consortium for Arctic Environmental Research. Now, number of the JICA member comes to be around 300. Taking advantage of the JICA, we would like to promote setting up international networks of researchers and training young researchers in Japan. Next, I would like to inform you recent situation of ocean policy in Japan. This slide shows the structure of our government for promoting ocean policy. In 2007, Basic Act on Ocean Policy was enacted. Under the Basic Act, headquarters for ocean policy was established. Prime Minister is heading the headquarters. Most important task of the headquarters is drawing up a basic plan on ocean policy every 5 years. And good and hot news for us is the new basic plan for next 5 years was just approved by the cabinet meeting on April 26, the last Friday. There are some big changes from the first basic plan. One of the changes is an action for the Arctic. In the first basic plan, I can believe, but there is no description about Arctic. In the new basic plan, it contains these items. First one is implementing observation and research in Arctic area for ensuring safe marine transportation, promoting science activity, preserving the environment, and suitable international collaboration. Second one is investigating utilization of Arctic sea routes with promoting consultation with concerning countries, shipping industries, and so on. At last, I would like to mention my expectation to Arctic Observing Summit. For countries which newly come to have a will to go into action in the Arctic, like Japan, it is very difficult to have a clear view to step forward. One reason is a large number of activities. We are sometimes in trouble in finding a suitable person to contact. Maybe some kinds of efforts of integration and coordination of research activities would be important. In this context, I have 3 ideas in my mind. First one is setting up an integrated database covering all records of observation activities. But I learned from the working session I attended yesterday, this is very difficult to realize. But I think we need to start this kind of thing from the part we could do. And second one is coordinating research plan and operation among research vessels and icebreakers. And third one is building up an international network for researchers for utilization of major research stations. And one more point is the involvement of industry. I actually have many contacts with Japanese industry people. A company like Mitsubishi Heavy Industry, which has clear vision of business concerning the Arctic, is okay. But this is my impression, but most industries do not have clear image of what kinds of data they can have from the Arctic observation activities. Maybe it is important to show what kinds of data we can offer to them. It's very important. Anyway, to record the situation of current rapid changing Arctic and leave the data is our responsibility for the future generation, I think. Making scientific analysis on this is also very important for the future. It's very worthwhile, and we should keep our endeavor, I think. In conclusion, I would like to manifest my new target in coming few years. I think you remember this map. I will make a propaganda in Japan for changing the image of Arctic in Japanese from this to this. This is actually a map of the Arctic, but something special. Please note, Japan is still in the map. Thank you for your attention.